Welcome to the Performance Banker Podcast. You'll hear banking industry experts providing unique insights and expertise to help bankers achieve higher performance, obtain outstanding results, and gain a competitive advantage. Here's your host, Tanya Gossage.
Welcome to the Performance Banker Podcast. I have here with me Mooskaan Baxi. It's so exciting to have you here with me today, Mooskaan.
Thank you so much for the honor. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. I was on your podcast just a few weeks ago. It was so exciting to be on your podcast. Again, thank you for allowing me to speak to your audience.
Oh my gosh, of course. Thank you so much for the advice that you shared with me.
It was a pleasure. So to get started on your interview today, you started as an entrepreneur in your career at 17 years old, which to me is totally amazing. Tell us how that journey started and how you began podcasting.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. That's a really great question. I know that's kind of on top of people's mind whenever someone gets into anything, especially when I got started at 17. So a little rundown, a little bio about me and my family is that my dad has been in his own business, a business entrepreneur, for about 20 plus years. So basically my entire life. It's a lifestyle I was very familiar with growing up. And I had seen what life that he had granted us with him being able to be at home, be his own boss. And that was me and my brother were homeschooled. We traveled before COVID about, 2 times a month, so about 2 to 3 weeks a month on different places. And it was part of our homeschooling education. We've been to so many states, we've traveled a little bit outside of the country, not as much. But also I just saw the flexibility. He was able to come to every single performance I had, dance, figure skating, speeches, etc. He never missed a single one. And I can very confidently say that he was always there. If I said, hey, I have an ice show this weekend, he 100% was there. No questions asked, nothing. I need to go and step out to do a few things for work. It was all on his own basis. He would call and be like, hey, I'm with my family right now. I'll call you back in a few hours. And these are some of the things that I saw. And I said, this makes sense to me. This is a life that I have enjoyed for my entire life. It doesn't make sense for me to want to do something else. I know what he does. I'm very comfortable. I'm very familiar with it. And I thought, at least for a few years, because, what's a typical question when someone who's 17 has? It's, what do I want to do when I go to college? What do I want to be when I grow up? And when that time was rolling around, I was like, I don't really have anything that I see a college can give me. I don't really have a special degree that I'm looking to pursue right now. There's nothing that piques my interest that, wow, I'm so excited to go spend $80,000 to go learn. And this is not a diss to people who are doing college at all, or people who have gone to college. I totally support you. It's just that there was nothing inside of college that excited me. So I said, let me decide to build my own business, go off on my own, at least build to a place where I feel very comfortable financially, so that when if I wanted to go to college, if I wanted to pursue some degree, if I wanted to do something, money was not going to be the issue. I didn't have to go cram, say, I have a huge interest in writing and reading, and I love literature. If I wanted to go be an author a few years down the road, once I've had my financial cushion, I don't have to worry about, going for the first advancement really bad, just like $50 down deposit. I don't have to worry about that, struggling for a publisher, worrying so much about, will I be able to eat tomorrow because if I don't get a publisher today? So those are some of the things I said, let me go off on my own. So my dad's been in business, a business coach, a speaker and author for about 20 years, and about a financial coach for about 10 years. We looked at a few different business options and we figured financial services was the way to go for me. So when I was 17, about last year, just around this time, around March, my dad was like, hey, you're going to turn 18 in August. You're going to start in financial services. What are some ways that, you can break out of obscurity? You can grow your confidence. You can start talking to people a lot more. And I was like, I'm not really sure. And he's like, what about a podcast? I was like, that's such a great idea. Okay. And we were kind of brainstorming and we had landed on the idea, what would you say to your younger self? And it was a short 10-minute podcast that you were so graciously a part of, and I really appreciate it. It was just, what advice would you give to your younger self looking back? or what advice would you give to the younger generation kind of moving forward? And my dad, when he gave me this opportunity, he was like, I want you to do 100 within a month. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
So I did. I called at least 300 people from my dad's database all on my own. I just called them and I said, hey, I'm his daughter. Can you give me 10 minutes? And just so many people were so willing because they had already a great relationship with my dad, but also they were just really great people who wanted to help. And I had grown so much. And I know you had mentioned you only have about 10 or so podcasts. And let me say that when I did my first one, I was shaking. It was so bad. I don't even look at that. The first one's just so bad. But I think around 50 is when I started like, okay, I know what to say. I'm a little bit more relaxed. I can slow down. And that's just a little bit of how I got into podcasting and business in general.
Mooskaan, that is fabulous. I mean, what you've done in such a short time is phenomenal. And I mean, and to be homeschooled and do what you've done in homeschool is more than what some people I think have done in a lifetime. I mean, it's so amazing to do and travel like you've traveled. I mean, there's people out there that have goals today that literally are in their, was reaching here for in their goal book.
Yeah.
To do what you've done as a child, that is so amazing. I'm so impressed. And, when I was on your podcast, I told you I have to have you on my podcast because there's so much synergy there. And two, you talk about, your dad wanted you to speak and to have these podcasts and to do 100 in a month, and you went through and pulled out 300 people and looking at all of these names. When I was in high school, Mooskaan, I could not literally speak in front of the classroom. So to do what you did at 17, if I had a princess crown or a gold crown, I literally would ship that to you because you deserve that for what you've done. And I've told you before, you're going to go to great places, but let's go ahead and go into the second question. And that is, do you have a target niche that you enjoy having on your podcast? And if so, who is that audience and how do you select them to interview?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know when you have a podcast and you're looking to interview people, making sure that you understand what group you want to target, what group you want to talk to, that's really important when you start your podcast. And like I said, I had the goal of 100, so I was really just going through the numbers. And most of them were my dad's clients and people he had known. And really, I don't feel like I have a very specific niche of who I like to talk to. I think at the end of the day, I'm very open to people who just want to talk to me. I feel like that's a very easy standard to have, is that, hey, just be open-minded with me. You don't have to love me when you go in. You don't have to be the biggest supporter of me. But as long as you have an open mind of, hey, I'm going to sit down with this girl, I can give her some wisdom and, she might be smart enough to understand it. And that's just kind of all I really look for. There have been some times I have had some podcasts where I could tell they just really did not want to be there. And I tried my absolute best. And I think that was a really big tip in podcasting, is having an interviewee that maybe does not want to be there, and then trying on working hard to make them feel as comfortable as you can, especially through Zoom. It can be a little bit different, maybe easier to some people, more difficult to some people. It really depends. But it's definitely a skill that I think I have improved upon a lot. I'm definitely not where I want to be fully, but it's definitely something that's worked a lot easier, as I can tell as the podcasts have gone on. And I've had harder people to talk to, and I've still gotten them to be like, okay, relax, at least by the end of it. At least like, okay, there was the last 2 minutes where I finally got a smile out of you, but you know what? It was worth it. I still got the smile and I'm good. So really that's about who I look for. Anyone with an open mind. I'm very willing to talk to anyone. I feel doesn't matter if we are in the same field or not. I think that a lot of people have a lot of different outlooks on life. They've all had a lot of different ways they've moved about life that they can extend to me. And maybe it doesn't directly fit me, but maybe there's something down the road it can help, or maybe it can trigger something else for me or someone else. and give me a little bit of advice moving forward.
Mm-hmm. That information is really great. Some of those people that you interviewed, maybe they didn't really feel comfortable doing the podcast, but at least they took that step to do it. And then the next time they get asked to do a podcast, they will feel a little bit better. The repetition is what helps us to feel more comfortable. I know when my team initially, when we set out at the end of last year and created our strategy for 2022, and I saw that they had podcasting on there at the top of the list, and they had this number of how many they wanted me to do for the year. I went, whoa, Mooskaan, I was like, I'm not ready for podcasting. I don't know anything about podcasting. I felt like I needed to go through education, and I didn't communicate necessarily in the right way to do podcasting. And then one day I decided just jump out there and do it. As Grant says, be omnipresent in all platforms. And yes, you're going to make mistakes, but that's okay. People just want to see you doing your thing, being authentic, and that's what people are wanting. And so one day I just decided, let's try it. And after I did the first one, which was just them interviewing me, after it was over, I said, I think I can do this. And so maybe for those people that you interviewed, you said you got a smile out of them. That may be just the thing that they needed to feel more comfortable to say, I've gotten the first one down. Now I can do another one. I did a podcast for someone who had never done one. We did it. She was so thankful that she did it because she said, I did better than what I thought I would do. And looking back on it, I feel great about what I did. And I think that's what these things are all about. And you being able to do your podcast the way you do it, what would you say to your younger self? Being able to give comments or techniques or solutions or just a word to somebody, you don't know what your word is going to say to somebody that might help them. So what you're doing, I think, is phenomenal. And not having a niche today, there's nothing wrong with that. You will figure out as you go on who that target market is that someday that you want to develop and grow your podcasting in. So I think it's phenomenal. So let's go into the next question. How many people have you interviewed so far on your podcast? Do you know that number exactly?
I don't think I know the exact number. I think at least 200. I did actually have the number, but I haven't updated it very recently. I'm pretty sure last time I checked, which was about 4 months ago, maybe even earlier, I think it was 194.
Wow.
And that was about 5 months ago. So I think at least by now I'm at least like 220, I would say 230. Wow. I haven't been doing as much, but it's because like you said, I've been a little bit, I have approached a lot of people, and hence I'm just working on very specific people that interest me or people that I know and I have a decent relationship with. And that's why it's changed just in the past few months.
Wow. That is so impressive. And I know that as you're doing them, you're probably getting referrals from people that you're interviewing and being able to, expand your network even into some greater networks and getting to interview some very impressive people. So let's go into the next question. I love how you've started your entrepreneurship so early in life. And I know you've had the opportunity to even interview some millionaires, which again, I think is incredible. Do you face challenges from friends or even family, other networks wanting to be so successful from such a young age? And if you do, how do you handle that from day to day?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really appreciate it. There are definitely challenges, and there are definitely challenges that I feel, especially when I'm a little bit younger and I'm in the finance field. It can be a little bit steep sometimes. Just when I'm building that initial relationship, especially because finance and showing financial information, it's all about that trust and the rapport that you build with the other person. And that's really important because at the end of the day, I'm really making sure that I can service the client the best way I can and not really just looking for a transactional, okay, give me your money, then I'm never speaking to you again. Right? I want to make sure that I build something more, provide value, and actually educate them so that they are making better decisions moving forward. My family, yes, at least for my some family members, there's definitely a little bit confusion, I would say. Nothing too outright like Mooskaan, don't do that at all. But I think sometimes they think that I may be being pushed into something that I don't want by my parents, which is a really common misconception that a lot of people hold. And I completely understand why they hold that, because there are a lot of people and a lot of kids who are pushed into fields that they don't feel 100% comfortable in, and it's just to appease their parents. And that's not what the case is with me, because I 100% understand why they want me to do what I'm doing and why they're supporting me in the sense that they are supporting me. So that's never been a factor of like, oh my gosh, I hate this. I can't believe my dad's forcing me. I've never really felt that, even though there wasn't any like other choice really that I had wanted. I never felt like I had nothing for me. My friends, I would say not really. They're really supportive. They're always there for me, and they're, especially when I have some hard days and I just want to like talk to someone, and they'll just let me let it out, and they're like, "It's okay, you got this, you keep going." And of course, my parents and my brother are super supportive. So those are some really great people to have around you, are people who know at the end of the day they want to live your success. There are always going to be people who don't want you to be successful, and that's just because they aren't successful themselves, so they don't really want to see you succeed either. And it happens with anyone at any age, but I know that when you're young you can feel targeted a lot. And that is definitely something I'm still working towards, especially again, finance field. It's a really scary field to be a part of. When you approach people like, "Hi, I just turned 18 a few months ago, can I have your money?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I think understanding yourself and your self-worth at the end of the day is something that's super important. If it's something that you struggle with, that is definitely something to go forward. And when you work on that, when you kind of work on yourself, you'll see it reflect in your clients and who you attract and the people you seek out. And the negativity won't bother you as much because you're so secure in yourself. And that is definitely something, hashtag like teenage girl insecurity is always going to be there for me. And I still always struggle with that. So working on that, I would say that's really important for me. And I'm now working very hard to develop, because as I get more and more into business, it's something that I have to put harder and harder shields up. So
yes. Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it. So, I started out, I may have told you this, but I started out in my financial career at 18 years old. So I was very young as well. And, being younger and, helping people make financial decisions, how to invest their money, you taking their money, you have to build trust with those individuals. You have to be confident, know what you're doing so that they will know that you're taking good care of them. You have them at your best interest, and you're going to take care of all of their financial affairs for them. And so with building that trust, you can take that relationship far and long term. So I love that. And you already at 18 years of age now show trust. I mean, I built trust with you right from the start. So, I don't think you're going to have any issues with that at all as you continue, your career in finance. You're going to build trust with people very easily. Also, I wanted to say that I saw your brother with you in a picture on social media. So he's younger than you, right?
Yes, he's 14.
Yes. So I saw 14, you said? So I saw him already learning the space as well. He's probably not already doing entrepreneurship, or he may, I don't know, but he seemed to, in the picture, be enjoying himself as well with Big Brother Dave. My audience, not all of my audience know who Big Brother Dave is, but great guy, great person to learn from. But your dad too is, a great mentor, great leader in the space as well. So you're learning from the right people, which is wonderful. So it does excite me that you've entered into the financial services space, which is dear to me, spending 34 years there in that space. You're becoming a financial advisor. And again, where trust and confidence is extremely important. What inspired you to get into that aspect of the financial world?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. Mostly my dad. As I said, he's been for about 10 years, and I've definitely seen what he has done and how he's helped people. There's
So let me interrupt you there for just a minute. So his career as an entrepreneur, just for the audience sake, is he a financial advisor as well?
Mm-hmm. Yep, okay. He's in the same field as me.
Okay, very good. Go ahead and continue.
No worries, yeah. So he's been about business for about 22 years, I believe. He does business coaching and speaking, and he's written about, I believe, 10 books by now. And about 10 years ago, around the 2008 crash, he had gotten some pretty bad financial advice. And from there, he had realized, I can't really trust a lot of people with this. Let me go do it on my own. Wow. I decided to go get licensed in financial services. So he does insurance and investments just like me. And he went and he got licensed. He learned all the basics. He learned it all himself so he could advise himself. And he said, if I got some bad advice, I know there are a lot of people out there getting bad advice. And he decided to go out there and make a little bit of difference. And he hasn't fully changed careers. He's still doing the business coaching, hence the Grant Cardone and a few other things. And that's still a very primary target. But financial services has always been an added bonus for him. And it was a field that he really appreciated, especially with the company we're with. And he decided, this was a good field for me. And I've seen a lot on how he's helped people, get out of debt about 5 to 10 years sooner, using some of his plans, investing. I know right now the market's going pretty crazy, and he has a few people that he's helped protect their money because he had seen this coming. And he said, let's move the money, let's do this. So I know that they're able to save a lot of money based off that advice. Also, we deal with life insurance, and paying out a death benefit is really hard. There have been a lot of instances I've seen him pay it out. The most recent one I can think of is, my dad. He's a referral partner for a very successful mortgage and real estate coaching business. And there he had given someone a policy. Guy, 34, his wife passes away from breast cancer just a few years ago. And thankfully, they had them covered, and we were able to pay it out within 2 weeks of submitting the death certificate. But it doesn't pay for the life, of course, but that extra sense of, okay, I have this, I have some money, I don't have to worry about my paycheck tomorrow, I don't have to worry about the kids, which, by the way, she left behind 2 kids under 5. So it's really unfortunate to see, but thank God my dad was there. Thank God we had something with them and they had something with us, and we were able to help them a little bit. And that really drives me because I completely understand. My mom got diagnosed with lupus at 22, 2 weeks after her wedding. So life insurance isn't something she was able to qualify for a really long time. And so I fully believe if you understand the importance of that, you don't really know what could happen tomorrow. And having that sense of, okay, if something were to happen to me, my parents would be taken care of in mine since I'm single. I don't have any dependents, but my parents would have some money to help bury me, some other things to help around the house, something that could help for, your family, if something were someone to be left behind, and et cetera. Just understanding those aspects of, okay, I might not see it, but if something were to happen, God forbid, someone I care about would be okay.
Mm-hmm. I can tell in your facial expressions, in your voice, how passionate that you are when you talk about, especially giving that example. And then you talk about your mom. So I can tell that what you do is something that you enjoy, and it's something that you're passionate about. It comes through in your emotion, in your voice, and how you want to help other people keep from having those particular situations happen to them. So you talked about the life insurance aspect of what you do in this new role. Are there other responsibilities that you do in this financial role of this new job?
Yeah, so currently I'm life insurance licensed and I'm working on investment license. Typically, we deal more with mutual funds, and retirement accounts, Roth IRAs, etc., rollovers. And those are the things I'm currently working on getting licensed. I have a few to go through. I know you're very familiar with the tests and the process. So yes. I'm just going through those right now.
Yes. My husband at one point went through the process to get his Series 6 and 63. So I remember all of that studying very well. So I definitely wish you the best as you go through all of that. And, if you need, as you need to practice those things, feel free to call on me. I'll be happy to help you as I can. But is there, or let me back up. Are you the type of person, Mooskaan, that sets short-term and long-term goals, maybe, personally, professionally, and financially?
Yes, 100%. I'm definitely not perfect at it by any means. There's always more you can improve upon. But since I was pretty young, goals were a huge thing for my dad teaching me growing up. He's like, okay, you want something, write it down every day, post it and see it and believe it and understand it. And then it'll be easier to get it.
Wow.
And there are so many times where I've written down goals or I've just thought about something so much that I got it. And it was just small little things I wanted as a kid, but it's definitely impacted how I've grown up, and goals are a huge part of my life.
Wow, that's awesome. Is there one goal, one or two goals that you would want to share with the audience that you hope to accomplish in your career or even your lifetime?
Yeah, I totally appreciate that. That's really great. I do have a few examples. My first goal is to be the youngest $1 million earner in my company by the age of 22, which is about 4 years. So that's about as long it takes to get usually a college degree. And I was like,
yes,
let's go for $1 million. So that's my first goal. It's a really, really important goal, and I'm putting a lot into it to get that achieved. And a very simple goal is 100,000 by the end of the year. So December 2022, to earn $100,000.
Oh my word. I'm giving you the virtual high five, Mooskaan. That is awesome. As I told you earlier, in the classroom, I could not speak in public. So my goal was, as I married young, and I knew I either wanted to be a banker or a teacher. You're saying that your goal is to make 100,000 before the end of the year, and then to reach that bigger goal later on in life. Well, my goal was, because I was not able to finish college, I dropped out early and went to a technical college. I wanted to get my degree or my certificate in business administration / accounting so that I could get this job in banking. I wanted to go to the top in banking without that college degree. That was my big long-term goal. So I got in, dug in my heels, worked hard, wrote down my goals, did everything that you talked about, saw that vision, worked, did everything nobody else wanted to do to get there. So as I ended my career in banking, I became the director of training and retail banking. So like you said, you have to write those goals down to get to that big thing that you want to do. And so I wanted to make more money. I wanted to get to the top without that college degree and prove to myself and to others that you could do those things without that college degree, just like what you're talking about. Not that you wanted to prove it to people, but you want to do that big thing, and you will do that. And I have no doubt you're going to make that 100,000. I have no doubt that you're going to sell enough of those plans, enough of those life insurance policies to do exactly what you want to do. That is so phenomenal. Mooskaan, I believe that I could interview you all day long, again, because you inspire me. And I have to ask you, as you have interviewed for your podcast, what would you say to your younger self? Is there something that someone has said that has really stuck with you that you've carried as a memory through all of those interviews that you have done on your podcast?
Yeah, excellent question. I know that's a lot of people's, when they think of how many podcasts I've done, that's definitely a very popular question, because there's so much that I've learned from so many different walks of life, so many people who have been through different things. I think there are a lot of things that overlap in the advice that I have been given. And I think that just very much proves and stands out the core fundamentals is that you don't need to go out and learn 1,000 skills. You can learn this one skill with a few easy steps. And how I would very easily summarize it is your circle of influence, the 8 closest people you have to you, are the people who you reflect and who you will always reflect. And to always be careful of who you have with that circle of influence, and not just saying, good or bad, or you can't just be friends with anyone, or you have to look down on people. It's not that at all. It's the very, very tight-knit friend group you have, or family, and always being that you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You don't want to be the most successful in the room. You want to be with people who influence you to the top, who want to make you work harder.
Wow.
That is a really important thing that I have learned, because I think it's really hard to go through a lot of things on your own, and to think that you can go through, the hardships of selling, of being out there, of on your own, or in your own business, or anything like that, I think is pretty foolish, because you can't get through. There are going to be days when it gets really hard and you have no one but yourself to lean back on. And it's just harder like that. And having that circle of influence of people saying, hey, I've been through that. I got through it. You can get through it. Okay, great. What's the next goal for you? How can I help you? How can I assist you? Being careful of, around those 7 to 8 people that you have, really to focus on that. And I think writing down your goals and visual manifestation is very real. And I would say that's a really, really important thing, is being able to identify what you want, how you're going to get it, when you're going to get it, being able to see it so clearly that there's nothing else that makes sense to you. I remember when I was a kid, I was really obsessed with those American Girl dolls, those 18-inch dolls. I had a huge obsession. I had like 4 or 5 dolls. Like, I was obsessed with them. So we had gone to Barnes & Noble one day. I was also a big reader as a kid. And I had seen there's this American Girl doll raffle prize. And it was a new American Girl doll, which is like $115 at the time. I think it's even more now, which is crazy to me. And it was with the book and everything. And they're like, hey, just put in your name, just put it down, and they'll call the winner at the end of the month, I think. And I was like, Mom, put down your number. And because I was so young, I think this was like 2011, I think. So I would have been like 12-ish. That's not the right math, but I'm just going to say 12 for now. I'm 2003. So it's very much not the same math, but I get nervous with math. So we'll move on. So I didn't have my own phone number. I didn't have an email, so I couldn't even enter because I think you had to be 18 anyway. So I only had my mom. I think I might have also written down my dad's, but basically it was my mom in this huge box of like, okay. So every night for the entire month, the only thing that I could ever think of when I went to bed, when I woke up, was getting that phone call that I had won the doll. I had thought of 1,000 scenarios, but they all had the same goal, which was I won the doll. Whether I was here or there, or how this felt or that felt, it didn't really matter. There were so many different ways of like, okay, maybe not play out like this, but it'll maybe play out like this. But I always got the phone call. I always got the doll.
Wow.
And later that month, my mom comes up to me and she's like, I got a phone call. And I was like, okay. And she's like, guess who? And yeah, I thought about the doll all the time, but I don't actually think I'm going to get a phone call for it, right? And I was like, who? And she's like, Barnes and Noble. And I was like, what? She takes me outside. She opens up the trunk and there the doll is. I was like, oh my goodness. And she's like, I got the call and I went to go pick it up. I wasn't sure if it was a prank or not, so I didn't want to get your hopes up and destroy it if it was a prank or something. And I picked it up and here we are. I was like, oh my gosh, it was incredible. That story just will always stick with me because I was so young, but I had so much belief and I had so much power behind it that I had, you know, how easy it is to win those raffle prizes. You put your name in once and you don't really think about it. And you usually never really get a call unless it was like 1 out of 5. And it was that big. And I was like, wow, this really shows the power, you know, the law of attraction, the power of manifestation. It's something I so believe in, is that, hey, it's going to be really hard right now, but I have so much belief that anything else does not make sense. It physically could not be possible, at least in my universe, in my future. This makes no sense of me to ever live this life. I have so much belief into getting this goal. And I think those two are really, really important. Mindset is really important. And I know it's a lot easier said than done, especially for me. There have been a lot of times when I get really, really low, like very low, that people would be like, that's really, really low for your age, but that's okay. Because I know that it's okay. I'll keep going. And I think those are two really important things that definitely been stressed upon me. And I would, of course, stress it upon others.
That is so amazing. And once it's happened to you, nobody can take that away from you. And they cannot tell you it does not work.
Right.
When I try to tell people, you have to write it down, pencil to paper, and you have to visualize it. You have to believe it. And they think you're crazy sometimes. Some people think you're crazy, but when it happens to you, nobody can tell you it does not work, because you know without a shadow of a doubt that it works. And that was me many years ago, and getting to the position that I got. Nobody will ever tell you different. And being around those 5 people, those 6 people, I always want to be around you. I want you to be in my center of influence always. Always.
Thank you.
Yes, always. I want you to be in that center of influence. So as we move towards the end of this interview, this podcast, is there a piece of advice that you want to share with my listeners as a word of encouragement, inspiration, a book that they should read, or a quote that you would like to leave with the audience?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for the time that you've given me today and being able to give me this platform. I really appreciate it. And I was super excited that we were able. I know it was a little bit hard for the scheduling, but we got through it. And I'm so, so glad that we did, because I knew I really wanted to be on this. And you are such a joy. And I definitely want you in my circle of influence as well. You've been so kind and so positive, and I really appreciate it. We'll definitely be able to keep in touch as the years progress. And I'm really excited we were able to connect through my dad.
Yeah.
I think some advice that I think is really important is a little bit beyond what I had already said, but I think I had said before, understanding your self-worth and insecurities. I think belief is really important, and that is definitely something I struggle with, and I've always struggled with, especially, you know, growing up a teenage girl. We all know there's a lot of insecurities, a lot of pressure, and growing up at all, a lot of people have it, girl, boy, teenager, not. But specifically speaking for my instances, I know it was really hard growing up, especially I was homeschooled. So there was a lot of people being like, you're really weird for that. You travel so much. You're so close with your family. There's different things. You don't really want to go to college. You want to be an entrepreneur. There's just so much around me that I was always questioning and second guessing. And there were so many days I just really didn't want to do anything. And there are still days like that for me where I just really don't want to get out of bed. There's really nothing I look forward to at the day. And I think the smaller steps make the most impact in the end. And it's really hard sometimes when you're so deep into maybe negativity or self-doubt or insecurity that you don't realize that those small steps are gonna make your day, make your life, make your future. There were so many things that seemed so big at the time that people are telling me to do to help get myself out. There were so many things that seemed like such a big deal. And they're like, oh, just change your mindset. Just think of it something else. And I was like, that seems so hard right now. And it doesn't make sense right now, but it's so hard. And I found that take pride in those small steps, small accomplishments, whether it's just getting out of bed, whether it's making one phone call, whether it's sending out one email, whether it's doing one podcast for 5 minutes, whether it's just having a little bit of fun at the end of the day, being like, okay, this was a good day. I was able to watch an episode of a show I liked. I was able to go bike in my neighborhood. I was able to go to the lake, something like that. Take pride in those because it becomes so much easier. I made one phone call today. This was actually pretty easy. I can make 2 tomorrow. I can make 100 next week. And those are the things that get you out. It's not the huge dramatic change in your life, though those definitely help, and not to discredit those at all. But I think sometimes we get caught up. Like, I don't understand how I'm supposed to be, a millionaire when I can't make one sale. But making one sale is one less to get to the millionaire. So I think taking pride in those, like, okay, I'm not where I want to be, but I am a step closer. And that's what matters in the end.
That is phenomenal. So phenomenal. Mooskaan, there was a book that was recommended to me last week. And the way you wrapped up this whole interview, I want to recommend that book to you.
Okay.
Because it spoke volumes to me. And what you just said is a lot about what this book is about. But I thought that I really understood a lot. And I thought that I was making a lot of changes until I read this book. Well, listened, I got it on Audible. I bought it on Audible. And the name of it is The Big Leap. Okay. And I will email you the author, but it's The Big Leap. That book is so amazing. And one of the things that it has taught me too, in addition to what you just wrapped up, is we can call it time management, but it's the Einstein way of looking at time. Never heard that before in my life. Never. Wow. Never. And how we are time and how we actually manage the time. And I've heard how time works, and I've heard how time can manage us and how we manage time. Never again have I heard about Einstein time. It was the most amazing thing about how we have learned things as we've grown up about ourselves and about our self-esteem and about our mindset and all of these things. But he birthed some things in me that really spoke volumes to me. And I think that those same things will speak volumes to you. And to any of you, if anything that Mooskaan talked about today spoke to you, that book will speak volumes to you as well. And I will ask Jeffrey to mention that book in the show notes along with the author's name, because it's not coming to me off the top of my head, and I apologize for that. But that book was recommended to me last week, and I have 30 minutes left of that book, which I will finish today. That's how into that book I got. It's phenomenal. The Big Leap. But if you learned anything from her today or from this conversation new, or you enjoyed this interview today, please leave us a comment, a rating, share this podcast with a friend or a coworker, and be sure that you subscribe if you haven't to our podcast already, The Performance Banker. We depend on you every week. We know that performance gets results. And until then, between now and next week, go perform and get the results that you deserve.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to download and subscribe wherever you get your shows. Find more content on our YouTube channel. Link is in the show notes. This podcast is sponsored by GossagePerformanceConsulting.com.